We've got no music.
Oh, I have.
Sing. We haven't. I haven't.
I have.
Oh, there we go.
Something going strange.
As always, we have our normal. Let's sort the music out. We can hear it. We can't hear it. I'm actually drinking tonight, Nicholas. You'll be glad to see.
Ooh.
Just nipped to the garage.
Me too.
Heart of Darkness, Dreamy Sensations, Hazy IPA. It's one of my beer boxes. This God knows how old it is. So I'll let you know how it is. Nicholas has got some great news, some owly beer by the looks of it.
Taito Alba.
Right,
with a barn owl on it.
A barn owl. Very good. Right, well, good evening and welcome to episode 70. Can you believe? Episode 70 of the Malt Travail podcast. I'm going to talk a little bit about our 70 episode journey. This evening is going to be mainly talk about Ireland and the wonderful island of Keg, because you very rarely find any hand pull. Well, you don't find much beer, full stop. Apparently, I think there are 9 pubs with hand pumps already in the whole of Ireland, and apparently the new Wetherspoons has got more hand pumps than the rest of the pubs put together. So it's weird, isn't it? How it's a completely hand pump free. Very interesting. And whether that's still, I don't know what it is. I know we've talked before about. I think we talked about Northern Ireland. Still have some quite draconian rules around alcohol. But anyway, that's the plan. But as always, we'll do some beery highlights, and then we'll also do a little bit of news. And then I had a week in Ireland, going north to south. So some of the places Nick and Bruce have also been. Although I think it's been a while for both of you, hasn't it? Since you were in the end.
Oh, to have seen it, really, yes.
Land of Leprechauns. But I'm sure you'll chip in. So, yeah, can you believe that we began our podcast journey back in January of 2021, which is quite scary, isn't it? And for those of you on YouTube, there was a lovely picture of us in, I always get this wrong, is it College Green or College, whatever it's called, Minster Yard or whatever it's called?
Yeah, the College Green, yeah.
College Green. And this was kind of at the end of lockdown 2, I think, when pubs could semi-open, and the pubs around the Minster in York came up with a wonderful idea of simply opening their windows or whatever and putting tables out in. I think it was City Council, wasn't it? Put tables out in the green, and it became a little bit of a kind of a sanctuary, didn't it? Really, and
it was excellent.
And we had some good weather, so we are there. There was another picture there of Bruce and Nicholas sat outside the Mitre next to Knaresborough Station, both fully COVID masked up. Those were the days. Even sat outside the bloody pub, you had to wear bloody masks. You had to book your table. Oh, it was bonkers. And that was I think that was the same day that we'd had a visit to the Roosters Tap, which again we'd had to book, and then we got there was nobody there but us. But anyway, again, if you're on YouTube, there is a table absolutely full of beer glasses because we went a bit mad in there. I think we were kind of suffering withdrawal symptoms. I think that was my fault. I went a bit mad and went and said, right, we'll just have a third of everything. And so there are many glasses on the table, which is quite interesting. So 70 episodes. As I say, our first episode was back in the depths of lockdown in January 21, when we really were absolutely in the middle of it. Christmas had been cancelled. Everything was doom and gloom. There was no hope of coming out the other side. I don't think by then we'd had bloody COVID jabs or anything. No. So it was very much in the dark days. And I said the whole idea was that it was just, reminiscing about life was back to normal and going and drinking beer, which obviously we do. So, yeah, we've lasted 4 years and 5 months up to this point. We've had 2,000 audio downloads. We have 901 kind of regular or listeners that have listened to more than one podcast. And our YouTube channel has had 2,000 views. And we have 20 subscribers, so we are still small and perfect. As always, I'll just run through our international stats, and again, they've changed quite a lot. UK has become our #1 listener, so that hasn't happened before. We've always had more listeners in USA or somewhere, or Malta, or for a while Russia, and then China. So we've had 18 downloads last month in the UK, 9 in the US, 2 in Egypt, 2 in Spain. We always have a couple in Spain. Lithuania has joined the list this week. We have a very avid learner in Brazil. And again, we'd love to hear from you if you're listening, or you pick this up at some point. Please do maybe get linked to our social medias and let us know what the beer season is. We've got a new fan in India. We've got one not in New Zealand. We've got one stubborn Russian who's listening to us. Hello, Mr. Putin, and one in Singapore. So it's always quite fun, isn't it, looking at our stats and where they are, which is good fun. And again, I'm afraid, Nick, your labels and logos, which was for a long time our most popular episode, has been trumped now by episode 6, would you believe, which was our review of the Trans-Pennine Rail Ale. So that now has had
That's all. So Pisshead's watching it, isn't it?
194 views. So see, we're doing a public service, telling people the ins and outs about the Trans-Pennine Rail Ale. Although I
suppose every week people are doing that, and they go to YouTube looking for videos.
Yeah,
so,
that's true, actually. Yeah. And that's
we'll be being banned by the poor people over in those towns and villages over there that are getting fed up of them now.
Our first ever episode is still up there with 79 views. And these are just YouTube clips. They're not the audio as well. So yeah, all very interesting. All very interesting. Right, beery highlights. I'll go very quickly because I've only been drinking one kind of beer for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've been drinking Titanic Century Anniversary Ale because Stoke-on-Trent is 100 years old this year, and it's quite an interesting story that the city had applied to be a city in, I think, something like 1920 and got rejected because it wasn't big enough. And then the king came on a visit and on the whim just said, "Oh, I quite like it here. I love the pots. I'm going to make you a city." And apparently Whitehall and Parliament had no idea about it. And so the king just said, "I'm making you a city." And that was it. So we jumped at the
I didn't know King George V spoke like that.
Yes, he did. Yes, he was very well spoken. Yes. Anyway, so we've had a whole year of celebrations. We had a big parade in the People's Parade on Saturday in a very, very damp June afternoon. We had 900 people in the parade and about 4,000 people watching it, which is really, really good. And I was stewarding on the day, so I managed to get in the Titanic tent at the end to help rehydrate myself. I can't remember if I shared this. Did I share this with you last time? The other highlight for me has been the Spitfire. So Reginald Mitchell was born and bred in Stoke-on-Trent. He was obviously the designer of the Spitfire, potentially one of the people that kind of changed the world. And we obviously had an event to celebrate
the Merlin engine.
120th birthday it would have been this year for Reginald Mitchell. So and in fact, obviously we have a Wetherspoons in Hanley, Stoke-on-Trent, called the Reginald Mitchell. So we started off in the museum because the museum in Stoke has actually got Spitfire in it and a whole brand new Spitfire gallery. And then we nipped across the road and we had the second part in the Reginald Mitchell. And the person on the screen, if you are watching on YouTube, is Reginald Mitchell's nephew, who is still alive and kicking, and does quite a lot of work around schools and just tells the story of his great uncle. And we had a paper plane competition in Wetherspoons, see which one would fly the furthest. And again, we sampled lots of very nice Titanic Century Ale, which is quite nice ale actually. I'm just going to move our picture, so it's kind of based on a bit of a kind of more, I don't know what the word is, traditional kind of World War II type beer. Although maybe not World War II, because it wasn't very strong in World War II, was it? This is a lovely amber ale, 4.7%, which I guess is kind of a proper old-fashioned British bitter. And it is very nice and very Moorish. So that was my little one. Nicholas, you've been mainly drinking Ossett beers, but you've made a nice discovery, haven't you? You've found a new brewery tap for us that do strange pizzas.
Yeah, Salt Tap in Saltaire. It's a great building because it's an old tram shed. I believe that before Ossett actually, or before Salt bought it, Ossett and Salt the same. It was really like a variation of an indoor children's play ball pool, wacky warehouse type thing without a pub connected to it. But it's a fantastic use of a big old building. It's, I suppose, at the end of the tram line for one of the tram lines that ran into ultimately Bradford or Leeds. And so it's a wonderful building. Obviously, the whole of Saltaire is a wonderful village to walk around anyway because tried to look after his workforce. And yeah, so Salt, the normal menu is pizzas, and they do this sourdough. But as well as the savoury versions, they do a Nutella pizza. So you imagine a pizza base with a good thick layer of chocolate Nutella sauce on it and fresh strawberries and cream on there. And it works quite well because if it was a sweet base, then it'd just be too sweet. But the salt in the sourdough dough cuts it quite nicely. And as I say, it's a multifunctional building. You can actually sit overlooking the brewery on certain days at the weekend, I think, or you can reserve that area. So it's set up for having private events, private parties, but without affecting the main part of the pub area, should I say, which means obviously they can increase the revenue. It's a shame sometimes when bars have private events and say, oh no, we're closing down. You can't come in because we've got a private event on. They can cope with that and a lot more as well. Good outdoor seating area. The view isn't brilliant because it's on the side of the main road, but at the same time, good old capacity there. And it was certainly ticking over when we went. That was on a Saturday afternoon, I think it was. Alternative fannies, obviously, it's difficult to pull yourself away from fannies, but in terms of getting something to eat, also, there's always that option and a bit more room to spread yourself out. And yeah, I don't mind Ossett beers anyway. They had salt beers on, the Ossett beers, and they had their Riverhead Brewery, which is in Menston, isn't it? Marston, yeah. Marsden, yeah. So they had one of those
on the real hill.
That's one of their breweries as well. So yeah, all in all good. And then last night I was at the Scarborough Open Air Theatre. Memories of you, Bruce, because the Coors were on. And remember when we used to be going out on a Friday, Saturday night, you used to insist on me coming down to your house at 7 o'clock because, oh, no, we're going out at 7 o'clock. And I used to get round here and you used to be nowhere near bloody ready. And so I used to sit here in your living room where I'm sat now. And you either used to put Father Ted on the television by the satellite. And I thought it was the most infantile, ridiculous program I've ever watched. Or you'd turn your bloody hi-fi on full blast and play the Coors, which wasn't really the sort of dance music vibe that we wanted to go out on a Friday or Saturday night round Malton, But yeah, the Coors were on. So went on to watch the Coors. They were very good. I mean, obviously the family were musicians before they became pop stars. So they can certainly, as Pete Postlethwaite said on Brassed Off, they can play a bloody good tune. But they had two beers on offer on the bar. No Guinness, surprisingly. But they had Northern Monk Faith, their IPA, or they had Estrella Damm. Do either you want to have a guess how much they were for a pint?
£7.50.
Creeping up towards £6 a bit.
7.
Yeah, one's too high, one's too low. £6.95.
And a cardboard cup as well, Nick, was it? In a cardboard cup.
It was, yeah. But at least it was better than paying £7 for a pint of John Smith's or some other mass-produced bloody Southern Midlands nondescript beer. At least, Northern Monk are independent. And to be honest with you, compared to some of the weird and wonderful flavours that Northern Monk keep coming out with, they've gone sensible. Obviously, IPA is still a very popular beer. So they've got a bit sensible. So, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, beer price has been a massive issue this week. There was an interesting article in the Daily Telegraph this week. They're saying that £7 now for a pint of cask ale in London is becoming quite commonplace in many places. And landlords saying if things go on the current trajectory, it'll be £10 a pint within 3 years. And just how it's a death knell for pubs. And I have to say, last Friday night, we went out into town. I mean, to be honest, I was a bit shocked, really. Well, we went to the Market Cat there and a pint and a half German lager was £10.80. I've been in the Royal Oak at Ripon today. 2 pints of Dark Landlord.
£10.80 for a pint of lager, Bruce?
No, £10.80. For a pint and a half. So then today in the Royal Oak at Timmy Taylor's pub in Ripon, it was £13.80 for 2.5 pints of two pints of Dark Landlord and half a Landlord. Beer's getting so pricey.
I'll hold that thought because I'll come back to that with some prices out in Ireland, which were again quite crazy. Nick, this brewery in Salt, what are they? I mean, have we worked out what they're actually brewing in that Salt brewery? They can't be brewing salt beers because they're just chucking out salt beers like bloody Doom Bar and Landlord these days. So, do you think?
No, they are. No, it's because it's a sizable setup.
Yeah,
and B, don't forget, one of the reasons I don't like craft beer is because I believe they don't have to let it brew and settle as long, because they ain't bothered about letting it settle. They ain't bothered about putting findings in it to let it clear. They're just knocking it out cloudy, aren't they?
Well, no, I'm not. That pint you've got on the picture there from Peter on the Square. That's a pint of salt, but it's
no, it's not.
What's
That's
that
a
one?
pint of Osset. That's Osset. Yeah. So that's there. That's either there. Well, that's White Rat. That's
Blonde
what
or
I
White
prefer
Rat.
to drink now. But the salt beers are the craft beers through the hole in the wall, through the electric taps.
So that is a salt beer then, the one in the picture.
And I'm saying it's lazy brewing. No, sorry, I can't see any pictures. But if I'm drinking it in Peter in the Square, it ain't a salt beer. It'll be either Silver King, or it'll be White Rat, or it could be their blonde.
That looks like a White
Rat.
I
very.
Anyway,
very
let's move on. Let's move on.
Right, Bruce. Craft beers. And Bruce, then when I went to Sláinte, I said I was
we moved on
drinking their Riverhead.
Right, thank you. Right, move on. Right, Bruce, it's a bit of return stuff here, because you've been on your normal kind of up on your travels. So on the screen, for those who can see the screen, we've got High Holborn, and I can't believe you've not been. You have been to the city. You've been there with me, Bruce. I'm talking 30, 40 years ago, but you have been in there. In High Holborn.
I don't remember going. I was absolutely staggered by it.
Absolutely
staggered by it, though.
It's a stunning pub. You've got Blackpool on again. You've got Wakefield on again. You've got a chip shop in Wakefield where people are queuing around the block. And then you've also got a little bit about you've talked about £7 pints. And then again, you've talked about a trip out to a Great Newsome. Oh no, sorry, the Goodman and Arms. So yeah, City of York, which for those that know is a Samuel Smith's pub, isn't it? In London, it's kind of on the main High Holborn kind of stretch, and it's near is it not near that funny little bridge in Holborn that's always, I think, is quite picturesque, where
yes,
buses going over
3 minutes walk from Princess Louise as well. So
that's right. Yeah.
That's the Holborn Viaduct, where I have got the Viaduct Taverns pub sign up in my loft. I'll bring it down. You can see the bridge that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So you talk about that, Bruce, and I'll go and grab it.
Okay. So I have to say, I do not remember going. It was absolutely jaw dropping. In fact, on Monday we've got 14 American relatives visiting. Meet them in London. I'm going to meet them at the Prince and take them down here because I'm going to show them some proper historical pubs. Anyone's not been. It's insane, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah.
It's a huge building, and I say it's best to describe from there. It's like a medieval banqueting hall, and then these vast barrels. It is a piece of living history. I mean, Christine and
all the little booths down one side, haven't you? Little
absolutely.
Kind of, it is. I think it is one of London's oldest pubs, and they reckon the interiors, as they touched on. I've been in. It can be a little bit shabby at times. I've been in there when probably on a late afternoon when you go in, and there's been a city rush when all the city boys have been in there.
Yeah,
it can be a bit like that. But then other times they do a lot of food, don't they? In there, I know whenever I've been in there, they're churning out loads of food. It's quite a serious spot.
The Sam Smith's food is pretty. It's not great. It's mystic, the menu, I have to say. We've tried to research for beer. So there weren't great people eating because there's so much competition out in London, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's such an old-fashioned menu. Like you say, the city boys will want to be in empanades and tapas and things like that now. Take kidney pie with some really trusty other chips, but cut it for them, will it really?
They're all smoking the lager. Yeah. And then you found a new pub in Blackpool, Bruce.
Yeah, it's near Blackpool North now, finally, because Blackpool, of course, has been a beer desert. We're on the £10 train tickets. Primarily take some friends along to see the town of Rochdale, and we had dinner booked at Edinburgh Bridge, but we had time to go to Blackpool. And they've actually got rail sides now open just across from Blackpool North. The
there you go. Nicholas he's now walking around with quite a large Viaduct Tavern pub sign, which has got the Holborn Viaduct with handsome cabs being driven underneath it, and the Viaduct pub at the top, and the city of York is just slightly down right of that, if I remember rightly.
Splendid.
Very nice, Nicholas. Yes, very visual for a podcast, working very well. Yes,
well described.
And I think back in episode, something like 52, Nicholas gave us a rundown of the pubs in that area because I think he'd had a quiet afternoon and he'd visit quite a few of those. I think the Viaduct, Nick, you were a bit sitting on the fence, weren't you? You said it could be a great pub, but I don't know. Can't remember. You said it was very quiet, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, because I mean, we got in there. It was about 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. and literally we're the only two people in there.
Yeah.
And I said to the guy behind the bar, but it's that part of the city, you see.
Yeah.
You know, by that time,
Empties.
people aren't really edge of the business zone. And it's a bit like, it's it's no man's land. Not meaning it's not safe, but it's like if people at that time, like, they're either in the city centre or they've gone home sort of thing.
Yeah.
But as I say, a lot of people profess that it's the nearest to a Victorian gin palace.
Yeah.
That's been unaltered in terms of inside. It's got sort of almost floor to ceiling cut glass mirrors. It's got tiling. It's got the dark mahogany. And then in terms of the history, they reckon it's those that believe it's really haunted because they reckon there were cells in there because it's diagonally across from the Old Bailey, isn't it, over the courts, and they used to basically hang folks opposite as well. And they reckon that the condemned to death people were kept in the cellars, although there's a lot of thought that it's just all made up for the convenience and ghost stories and stuff like that. When I had the opportunity of grabbing this sign, I didn't know the pub myself, but with a history connected to it, I was quite chuffed when I managed to get it. Obviously, I've got the classic talked about before when we talked about branding, the classic Fuller's bit that goes over the top of the Fuller's sign, which is the phoenix there in gold and the red lettering. That came as a separate piece, so I've still got that upstairs. But it is. It's quite an eye-catching. Say it's Holborn Viaduct, and it's a bit surreal because it's so well kept and maintained, and now it's been surrounded by, once again, modern buildings and skyscrapers. But it is a bit of Victorian Britain. In fact, I would think it would be before Victoria's time, really, although it's cast iron, so it probably is Victorian. And then with having the tavern there as well. But that long road there, because the other place I was talking to Bruce about is the mhaith that's down there as well, that you have to know where it is because it's tucked down two little ginnelways. You get to the pub, it's sort of in the centre of, once again, some blocks of buildings. And the only sign to it is like just hung up on a lamppost pointing you down this little ginnelway. And that's a cracking pub as well. So you could have a good old beer crawl end of Tottenham Court Road onto Holborn and all the way down there, because as you guys know, there's at least 3 Sam Spitz pubs down there. As you know, Mike, that's where you used to hang out.
At the far end, the Crown's at the far end. And then
Crown,
Bruce,
Princess Louisa.
Up the railway, and you went back to Fernandez, which again I still haven't got to, in Wakey, and that looked like it was on form. Talking of pub signs, because that's covered in pub signs, isn't it, inside Fernandez?
Yeah, it is. Quite a lot from the home breweries. So I'm guessing that at some point, when they had developed this, the chaps from Ossett, because the people who own Ossett Brewery, an extended family, I believe 19 family members work now for Ossett and Salt and what have you. So somebody obviously had the contact at the time when home brewery went out of business. So obviously they shut the pubs down, tied houses. When they rebranded them, somebody at home brewery had the foresight to preserve the signs. It looks like an awful lot of them ended up here at Fernandez, Lewis is at Fernandez Brewery. Quite amazing building, isn't it, Nick? I mean, when you're looking for it, you go very much into a bit of a less salubrious part of town. The same when you actually turn right to it. I mean, there were 3 of us. We took 3 people there. Like, what, we're going down here? And it's very much different on the inside to the outside. It's the best way to describe it. Inside, it's a stunning building. That's what there.
Yeah, the easiest way to get to it is just head to that bloody great big roundabout. Because if you remember, Mike, before the modern roads were put in, when we used to go to Grandma's, we always used to go to Sheffield that way, around the outskirts. You used to get that big roundabout that if you turned into the town, you ended with Wakefield, but we used to skirt it past, then head down south. And it's just off that big roundabout. So you're literally on the outskirts of the town. But there again, Wakefield isn't a big city as such. So, I mean, once again, I think from there, it's about, quarter an hour walk back to the station, isn't it, Bruce?
Well, back to Westgate, but there's TP service now that stops at Kirkgate, so they have options now. So it's very close to Kirkgate station, but about 20 minutes walk to Westgate. But it is a fantastic, if you beer lovers paradise, and all the brewery in here. On a Friday tea time, they come round with bread and dripping for everybody. The nicest dripping I've ever had, because the previous I've hated it, but this is the brown stuff on the bottom of the pan. So it's fantastic, and a huge range of beers.
You were saving yourself for the chippy though, Bruce, weren't you?
Well, the whole point going to Wakefield was to visit Georgia Green Fisheries, Everyone's been talking about it, and it was most intriguing. It's in the middle of an estate in Lupset, too far to walk from the city centre, really. We got an Uber for about £3.50, although with the bus, actually now I could get on the bus. And what was astonishing was they double cook these in beef dripping, so the fish is very, very dark, as are the chips. But what was amazing was, for us three, anybody listening, we're from Malton. We had an infamous fish and chip shop in Malton called Jackie Taylor's. It was just a shop with wooden floorboards, one bench in the corner. Mrs. Taylor was quite posh. It was only open in restricted hours, but they did the most amazing fish and chips. She was in Tattersalls beef dripping. But there was a smell that I've forgotten about. But the minute we got out of the Uber and opened the door, I was just transported back all those years ago to when we were leaving the pub, because that beef dripping hangs heavy in the air. And obviously there was just this smell, and straight away it was like, back inside Jackie Taylor's. Fish chips were very good, very good. The fish especially were dark, very unique fish and chips. But what was bonkers too was the line of people to get in here. I think one or two I've seen the stuff on YouTube, but it's just the locals. They absolutely love this place, and it was like, I mean, you can see the queue there. There was at one point about 50 people in the queue to get in. So if you do go, yeah, definitely worth the trip. But Fernandez is cracking. I have to mention that pub at Blackpool though. Before Nick came there, that railside pub is great. Yeah, it's a modern. They took her apart the new station Talbot Gate, where they call it, unit in there. But not a vast choice of beers on. But a great alternative to Elseville in Blackpool. The beers were fantastically well kept. The staff were lovely. He was telling me about the Devonshire in London, and he said he actually imports his own nitrogen from Ireland, which is insane. But I have to say, talking about Guinness, we got the subject because they had the tiny Rebel cold drop stout. And I have to say, I think it was the best non-Guinness I've ever had. It was fantastic. So, Blackpool, of course, apart from this and Notterine is in the Abingdon Barbecue Sandwich Shop. Not a lot to visit. My favourite soft spot for Blackpool. It's been on its ass, but it seems to be slightly coming back a bit now. But there's enough things now. Good to have a real ale pub,
and a reform pub. Cracking. Right, let's do a quick bit of beer news, because again, as always, we're getting sidetracked. Just quickly, Jaipur is also celebrating, and we mentioned it before, but it was interesting again so as part of their celebration of 20 years, they're doing loads of Jaipurs. So currently you can buy a Jaipur limited edition can with a picture of Jaipur. It looks very nice. Nick's mentioned Northern. Well, they're doing a Northern Monk collab, a Jaipur Faith, which actually looks quite nice. There's a pink grapefruit Jaipur.
I had that on cask last Saturday night. I tried that last Saturday.
And there's a hazy Jaipur as well, which I've had. And I think they are going to do their double Jaipur as well. So, Jaipur. Anyway.
No way. No, it's because it's just a random number, isn't it?
Right, Nicholas is on the phone, I guess, somebody. Bit of bad news, bit of good news.
But you can't change your number, so have you never changed it to a number you remember? Right,
I'm going to mute him. Bit of bad news. Another pub closing that we have featured on the podcast. Bruce, I don't know if you've been here. This is Beer Heads, which is up. No. It's at the top end of Lincoln. It's up past the cathedral, towards the castle. Me and Nick went in here. It's kind of a typical micro bar. Lots of nice cask beers. But unfortunately, I think they had another. I'm sure they had a sister pub as well, but that one's closing. But we did mention a couple of weeks ago the Station Buffet at Bridlington, which unfortunately has been closed for quite a while. And we did say that I think Brass Castle from hometown Malton had kind of suggested they might be thinking it.
Yeah.
Anyway, good news now. Well, quite interesting news is that the German-themed craft brewer Belschnickel Brewery have announced that they've taken out the lease on the building, and they are planning to open it by the end of the year. So I think we mentioned last time that there's been a little bit of toing and froing about the kind of what has to be retained in the building. But they are saying that they're going to try and reopen it, hopefully by the end of the year. They expect the long unused parts of premises, the rear and side will house Belschnickel's new brewery. So it looks like it's going to become a bit of a brew pub. So Nick's back with us. So Nick, a bit of bad news. I think we've been here once or twice. Beerheads in Lincoln announced that they're closing. Remember, we went in here. I think we went in here again, COVID time, didn't we? We had to
All
book
right.
a table, and it was
Funny
all
place,
right.
though.
It was quite basic.
Yeah. Well, no, because they just had malton beers on there, didn't they?
Yeah, malton
You've been all the way
beers.
down to
Yeah, that's
Lincoln,
right.
and all they had was Bad Seed and Brass Castle.
Castle, yeah. And they were just saying that
And they say it was in a funny place.
yeah,
Not much concentrate there.
The Bridlington Station Buffet Bar has got a brewery has taken on the lease, but it's not a malton brewery or a Yorkshire brewery. It is a German themed craft brewery. Actually, I've just read it again, so it's German themed. They're not necessarily German. And they're called Belschnickel. They're currently based in Hull, and they're apparently going to open a brew pub on the site and retain it. So we'll have to look.
That's excellent news, isn't it?
Look out for that one. Now, I don't know if you picked this one up, but I'm gonna go through it with you, and this might finish up our first half. In that, to me, this is the bonkers bit about beer currently, globally and at home. So this flashed up on one of my social media posts because everything now is kind of USA based. Newcastle Brown Ale returns to America as an import, ditching the hated hoppy Chicago version. So I thought, oh, this looks quite interesting. So we talked about Newcastle Brown before, and its demise. Yeah, and you often find it on Royal Caribbean cruise ships, weirdly, and apparently it has got a massive following in the US of A. So they were headlining, great, we're going back to the proper old stuff, the old proper English stuff. It's being imported now. The bottles now say imported from the UK, etc. Anyway, hold that thought. And then it worked out that they'd been brewing it actually in America. And let me show you my little storyboard here. So Newcastle Brown Ale from obviously Newcastle, the blue 5 stars representing the 5 all federated breweries, which again became Scottish Newcastle breweries, and all famous on the football shirts, etc. And then of course Heineken bought them out and did what they normally do. Yeah. So by all accounts, Lagunitas have been brewing Newcastle Brown Ale in America for the last 20 years. But being Americans, and they completely changed the recipe, put loads of astringent hops in it, made it really sweet, and nobody really liked it. Anyway, Lagunitas have stopped brewing Newcastle Brown Ale now. So that was the labels that they had. Apparently, there was a lot of misleading things about the labels, because the labels claimed that they were the one and only, and yet they were being brewed in Chicago and California to a different recipe. Anyway, that's all gone now, and Heineken have taken it back, Newcastle Brown Ale Brewing, to Tadcaster. Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's good, isn't it? A great youngster. Yes. It's still quite a long way from Newcastle, but at least it's being brewed in the UK. However, I've also learned today that Newcastle Brown is also brewed in Heineken's Dutch brewery, Netherlands brewery. And what I've read is that if you're drinking Newcastle Brown in England, it's probably come from Tadcaster. But if you're drinking imported Newcastle Brown Ale, it's actually been brewed in Holland. So the Americans are probably drinking Newcastle Brown brewed in Holland, yet thinking it's the real old stuff, because Yorkshire is obviously near to Newcastle upon Tyne. So it just, to me, summed up the bonkers bit of brewing, doesn't it? Yeah. And someone like Heineken, who, don't know. I guess in the past I'd have been a fan of Heineken, but the way them and Carlsberg, the way they just want everybody to drink horrible fizzy lager, don't they? That's what they want, and they don't give a shit about heritage brands like Newcastle Brown. No, they just play around with it, pass it on to anybody, bring it back, and So anyway, I just thought it's good to share that with you, really, because it's absolutely bonkers. And then, have you seen these 2 New Yorkshire beers, by the way? Mardy and Reed Stella, which is not really breweries. They made me laugh, so I thought I'd share them.
That was a sad thing about the Salt Brewery tap, though, believe it or not. There was as many people drinking as they were drinking salt beer. If you're a lager drinker, drink salt lager, drink salt craft beer.
That's a common thing.
Sitting in a craft real ale pub, drinking Madry.
Yeah. Anyway,
Shocking.
This weekend we are going to yet again tread the boards at the wonderful Old Malton Royal Oak Pub and Kitchen. And again, for those on YouTube, this is a proper pub. And as you can see there's a proper flight. I don't think one of Nick's flights there, but I'm sure he probably drank them there. I think you always say Nick, he tries to have a darker light and a kind of middly beer, doesn't he, Steve? And so that was a selection.
He's he's got OP on quite regular now because they've promised him his own wooden cask with his Royal Oak name on it.
Okay.
Because it's from the wood. This is obviously, it's not a new marketing gimmick, but Thixtons have suddenly discovered that this promoting, the old peculiar from the wood is a really good selling point. And Steve reckons he's getting through 2 or 3 barrels quite easily now, even though it's a stronger beer, it's a bit more expensive. And it certainly does make a difference it being out the wood. So I say they promised him for the beer festival his own wooden Royal Oak barrel. I think that one as a dark beer is quite a regular one on there now.
So this weekend, is his annual Father's Day beer festival, which they tend to. It's normally cider in the bar, and it's beer out the back. And again, I did get a sneak preview of the beer list. So there is a Roosters beer on, there is Daleside, there is Great Newsom, there is North Riding, there is Hairy Bikers, there is quite a few ciders on. I did see a Theakston's on. There's a Pennine on. It looks I thought it was quite a nice choice, Nick. So we will hopefully be enjoying some of that tomorrow night. Bruce has mentioned he might jump on the train or buzz at some point, either Friday or Saturday. He's working tomorrow.
Yeah, I might try and get through on Saturday.
Right. Sounds fun. So that's my plan. I'm heading back up to Yorkshire tomorrow. So possibly next time we might give you a little bit of a rundown and a report on how that's gone. Hopefully we'll also get into Brass Castle because I quite like going back there. And Nick might drag me up to have some of those Aussie salty beers as well. So I think we'll take a break there, gents, and then we can go all Irish for our second half and have a quick look at Irish beers as well. So I'm going to make the funky music play, and this is the end of part 1. So please do come back and join us for part 2 when you are ready.